And we are live. Hello and welcome to the weekly Bisq Growth call. The Google Hangout invitation is in the chat. You're welcome to join us in the Hangout or watch on YouTube. We'll try and read all your questions and comments and answer them all during the call. Right, so today we're going to discuss a couple of things. We're going to review recent growth, which is being impressive. We're going to talk about the next upcoming liquidity weeks for Monero and Swiss francs. We're going to discuss how we can kickstart new markets from zero, and we might get to talk about referral programs. And I think Manfred also wanted to talk about the new release. And if we have any time after that, we'll talk about Lightning integration, APIs, and other fun stuff. Right, so starting with the recent growth, I'm going to share my screen. But basically, I'm going to go to the GitHub issue for this growth call, which you should be able to see now. Can you see my screen, Christoph?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. Right, so just looking at the three largest markets for Bitcoin to fiat, which are euros, dollars, and British pounds. As you can see, the growth has been amazing up until the right. Up until the right, and I'm very impressed, especially by the fact that we've had almost record number of trades in euros in the last few weeks, despite the drop in the price of Bitcoin. Believe me, the price of Bitcoin is normally very highly correlated to volume. So it shows that Bisq is growing organically, whatever happens to the price of Bitcoin. It's even more impressive with dollars. We actually had record week a couple of weeks ago, no way near the high of December in the price of Bitcoin. And also for euros, we'd had a stable market for a while, but for dollars, it was non-existent a few months ago. So, and before, when we did the liquidity week back in February, I believe, there were normally a handful of trades, less than handful of offers available. And now we have almost 10 every day, at least, sometimes some days 20, and it keeps going up. British pounds is more spotty. It's a smaller market, but it's also growing very nicely. And it seems that people are starting to get the hang of paying with faster payments. You can also see a screenshot I took earlier today of the offer book, the spreads in the offer book. And as you can see, 45 offers for euros, 25 for Monero, 17 for dollars. There's also Ether, which was disappeared for a while, British pounds, Vietnamese dong. I don't think we've had any trades there yet, but it should be coming soon. Litecoin and a dozen others. So it's very nice to see all of that. And that's for the growth. Just very briefly, I'm going to stop sharing before my screen goes crazy. Just very briefly, this is all organic. This is all things finally coming together and mouth to mouth and people learning about Bisq, which it bears reminding again, it's the only truly decentralized Bitcoin exchange or crypto exchange existing at the moment. There's other attempts, there's other P2P markets, but none of them are a decentralized platform hosted by the users in their own nodes, in their own clients, and running as a network. Again, if local Bitcoins gets banned from a country, they can't do anything about it. They'll just block that country. If other exchanges get blocked or banned, or they're afraid of getting regulated into some complicated situation, they will have to block those countries. Bisq cannot block a country even if they want to, because the users host their own nodes, they post their own trades, they solve things among themselves. The only slightly centralized element of Bisq at the moment is the arbitration. And of course, as Manfred can say later, there's big plans for decentralizing arbitration, although decentralizing it even more. Although I have to say that in my humble opinion, the ideal would be for arbitration to disappear, and there's also some options for that to happen with atomic swaps and things like that. not for everything, especially for fiat is always complicated, but the more automatic we can make trades, the more we can avoid arbitration, the better it is. And to be honest, in my experience, I've only ever had one case of arbitration, and it was resolved very easily. Basically, the other trader had made a mistake, and he just said, "Oh, sorry, I had my computer off. I didn't realize the time ran out," resulting in amicable solution. We also want to remind everyone that the next 2 liquidity weeks for Monero and for Swiss francs will be running concurrently from July 2nd to July 8th. So obviously there's some overlap between Bisq users, but we hope that because there's 2 different currencies, we can run them both at the same time. If you have been waiting to use Bisq for Swiss francs, there's no better occasion to do so than during the liquidity week. It's not just a moment to do trades, it's also a time to show other people that there is interest so that you can kickstart a market. There's loads of people who pop up, they make a few offers, they see it, there's no takers for the offers, and they go away. If you manage to get people together to do it at the same time, that's how you start trading. And that's how you see what interest there is for a particular currency. Monero is in a slightly different situation because there's already a market there, as you've seen earlier. And but if we can give it a push to a higher level, if we can get more Monero users there, we can maybe make it even more useful and have more depth to the market and more offers available. So 2nd to 8th of July, Monero and Swiss francs liquidity weeks. If you are also rewarded for participating, and it's the first, it's a good occasion to try out the Bisq compensation system of the Bisq DAO and learn how to claim a compensation. It's not much, but it's worth trying. It's a learning experience as well.
Regarding compensation requests, just a quick reminder for everyone who participated already in Liquidity Weeks or contributed to the network. The next voting periods will start on 1st of July. So don't forget to file your compensation requests until the last day of this month. So it's Saturday, I think, until end of day.
Exactly. Don't forget to file your compensation requests. Right, then we come to my favorite. By the way, the information, all of this we've mentioned, Liquidity Weeks, everything else, is on Slack, on GitHub. We'll put the links in the video description as well. My favorite topic: how do we kickstart a market from zero? Because remember, Liquidity Weeks are about pushing a market which is already there, already has a few users, to the next level so that it's more useful, has more depth. But how do you start from zero? A market where there has been no trades or there are no offers available. And we honestly don't know how to do this. We are so open to ideas and experiments. And I've done a couple of things with Mexico, with China, no success. It's should be easy, right? There's countries like China where, by the way, I remind you that we've added WeChat Pay as a payment method. Well, there aren't that many options, and most of Africa doesn't have local Bitcoin exchanges. They have websites, chat groups, WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, whatever. But it's there isn't a formal exchange where you can do peer-to-peer trading or any kind of trading. So my idea, it should be so easy. If you only need 2, 3, 4, 5 people to kickstart a market, if you are in China and you have 5 other people who want to trade Bitcoin, and as you know, Chinese exchanges, Bitcoin exchanges, have been shut for a while, but not decentralized methods. There's plenty of Telegram chats for people in China, WeChat channels for people in China doing trading. If you go to local Bitcoins and other websites, you will see that there's trades every week on in China. So I'd love to see someone, not one person, 3 or 4 people to get together and say, hey, this week we're going to try it. And of course, if there's any way we can help you do that from Bisq, offer a bounty, create a liquidity week, just reach out to us through any of the multiple social media. Slack is nice, but GitHub anywhere, and ask us to help you, and we will.
Manfred, regarding the Tor solution for China, we had a comment in Slack, I think yesterday or today, that there had some issues. Do we know if it's possible to access?
It is. I tried
Okay.
it. I talked to some friends in China. It's not as simple as we would like. It didn't work on the first attempt, but they managed to download Bisq. They managed to connect Bisq through Tor via VPN. There are some specifics. I think you had to use Tor bridges or Meek or something like that, but it is possible.
Yeah.
But of course, what happened that they set up a couple of offers and there was no one else there to take them. So the problem of coordination is much more important than the technological problem. That's an easy fix.
Yeah, so basically we are supporting since quite a while the Tor bridges and pluggable transport, or Meek is usually the most successful. It's still not 100% because the Chinese firewall is fighting against this, and it's a kind of like a cat and mouse race a little bit. But yeah, I don't have much feedback how well it works, but basically it should work. There are other solutions over VPNs, which for some people work as well. We plan to still improve the Tor setup so it's more flexible and people can configure their own Tor RC files, so it's easier for them to apply it for their needs. And regarding how to bootstrap a market from zero, I have an interesting conversation at the moment with this Bisq user from who has set up the trace for Vietnam. And he actually, they're a group of Bitcoin enthusiasts, and they are quite active, seems, in different projects. And they try to bootstrap a market there, not only for Vietnam, probably also for Thailand. They paid from their own pocket a professional translator, so hopefully we get it into the release tomorrow. We will see. Otherwise, it's in the next release then. And I told him already I should request a compensation request afterwards for this. And I think what's really needed is a handful of people who are motivated, who understand the real values behind Bitcoin. That's not just quick money. That it's about control about your financial privacy and and as far as he said, there's quite a good ground in Vietnam that people are using all kind of semi-decentralized, decentralized over-the-counter method like so chat groups or whatever. And I think in some of those countries, this model of a decentralized economy is just the normal state because there are not the huge companies which are controlling everything. It's much more normal that everybody runs their own small business. It's all interconnected. Like I was once in Sri Lanka, and that's perfectly decentralized economy. Everybody runs their own small stuff, and it's quite independent. And I think the concept of a decentralized currency fits much better or much more fluently in such countries like it's in some Western countries where people are used to do everything with one credit card, and then the credit card company knows everything what they've purchased. But hopefully we find more such people like this person in Vietnam, and I think that probably what's really needed, that we have some motivated people who are doing the actual groundwork there and promote the project on meetups and whatever.
Manfred, I know it's tough for Asia because of the time zones, but would he be willing to come on the next growth call?
I can ask him. It's a good idea. Yeah, it would be fantastic.
It'd be great. It'd be great. We could answer their questions, and if it works, it'd be a model to follow for many other countries.
Perfect idea. Additionally, we will add in this release a new feature, which is a little bit experimental, and we'll see how it plays out. That's about a referrer ID, but to not be mistaken, it's not about that single users get the referrer ID, and then that would break a lot of the privacy properties of Bisq. It's about that when there is a big market maker who has a group of traders, like maybe this guy from Vietnam, when he's pushing Bisq there and tell the people who are using Bisq, hey, use that referrer ID, what he get assigned from us, and then add it in the settings. There will be a field where people put in the referrer ID, and then the offers what they create and the trades what they execute. Also, this referrer ID will be part in the offer and in the trades, so we can verify it afterwards. And over time, when there is more trade going on, we have basically a measurement where we can compensate such people who are bringing liquidity, who are bringing users to Bisq, and those can file compensation requests, and we have some metrics. It's also especially interesting for API providers like Mike and Bernard. They're working on the APIs, and when they run the API service and people are really using it, they can also provide then request a referrer ID from Bisq. And with that referrer ID, when they give it their users or even add it directly in their service, then we see how many trades and how many offers are coming from the APIs, and we have some metrics to compensate for those. So basically, the idea is that partners, third parties, or anybody who is bringing in liquidity to Bisq has kind of like a possibility for a business model to earn directly based on that what they're bringing in on volume.
Since we're on that, Manfred, let's jump to what's in the new release. We're dying to know.
Yeah, maybe Christoph, do you want to talk about he's actually building the release this time?
Yeah, at least I try to build it, but it's looking good so far. Let me quickly grab the notes, because I think the last release was the big 070 release, and we not only have kind of bug fixes, so there were small issues with edit offers, but we also added a new feature which should help us solve the problem with lost communication between, for example, during arbitration cases or also during trades. So now you have the possibility, if you, for example, start a payment during a trade, you see if the other party of the trade has received the message, if she acknowledged it, so if there was a back channel to your client. So it makes it more easy to see if everything goes fine, and that's especially important for arbitration, because we saw issues where some arbitration messages got lost. So arbitrators try to contact traders, but they never received the message, and now we have means in place to solve and find these problems, which we hadn't before. Sorry, yeah, Manfred?
Maybe I add a little bit more to this.
Yeah.
It's basically to all peer-to-peer messages which are sent directly between peers, which are mainly the trade messages, the dispute messages, and the offer when you try to take an offer. We are using there an acknowledgement message back, and this message is only sent back after your request is really processed. And when anything happens, like when you take an offer and whatever, for some reason there is a bug on the maker side, and then the maker never replies because it failed for him, then you still get this ACK message back in the logs. I mean, as a user, you don't see it, but it helps us then to discover the bugs, why sometimes it happens that you take an offer and your taker fee get lost, but the trade failed at the end. And so most of this stuff is actually hidden. So for the user, it's not really visible beside in the dispute messages and in one part of the trade message, but it will help to fix some bugs which are still there and where we don't know too much about why they happen, and will help us to make the whole peer-to-peer communication more reliable and stable. That shouldn't say that it was super unreliable, as we didn't have many problems, but sometimes we had these problems, and this should help us to improve this. Yeah.
And besides that, we also have added 17 new coins, which where the process is now so easy that we get nearly too much coins. So there will be always lots of coins in every release. We also fixed some minor issues for Argentina, because after rolling it out, the national bank transfer or same bank transfer, we found out that there is a standard, but nearly no Argentinian banks comply with the standard. So they have different account numbers. So we had to take out all the validation and make it maybe basically a free form field again. So that should work now again. Besides that, yeah, of course, there are lots of fixes, smaller fixes in the user interface. Manfred, the fix for reusing of change addresses, was that the security fix, or is it something different? I'm not sure anymore.
No, that was a bug in the earlier versions that the first address was reused as change address in all your transactions, and of course that was bad for privacy. When you reuse, I mean, security-wise, it has not really much consequence, but for privacy, it was bad, and that's fixed as well. Another smaller thing is that when you made a transaction from Bitcoin Core, now in Bitcoin Core, it's replaced by fee by default activated. And when you fund your wallet, when you make an offer and you send the money directly from Bitcoin Core to Bisq, the transaction was not accepted by Bitcoin J because it was unconfirmed and it was replaced by fee. And Bitcoin J handled this as risky and only accepted it after the confirmation. But for usability, it was very bad because you need to wait for a confirmation to place actually your offer. And that's changed now, this behavior that that you don't have to wait for a confirmation.
Manfred, about Bitcoin J, because there are some other things that are dependent on Bitcoin J, and how well is it being maintained?
I don't have so much time to really follow it too much. I mean, they're working on SegWit, and it's in progress, but still not finished. I think they are lacking developers, like many other projects. And I mean, we are looking for alternatives basically, but it's a big work and big project, so it will not happen soon. But there might be. I've just had a session today with a developer who will help us now, and and the best solution would be when we could use Bitcoin Core in a mode similar like we use Tor, that we are starting Bitcoin Core in the background of Bisq, or Bitcoin D, as it will be without the UI, of course, and then have all the benefits from the reference implementation. And there is
which is the best maintained one, most up to date, the SegWit and back.
Yeah, you get all the new features and the best performance. And there is one interesting project going on from Jonas Schnelli, where you can run Bitcoin Core in a kind of SPV mode, where you don't need to download the whole blockchain. And we didn't have time to look close into it. If it really works for our use case, that it doesn't consume too much resources, you don't need too much disk space. But when it has similar resource requirements like Bitcoin J, then this would be the best option. But it's a big chunk of work to get all the wallet stuff then changed to this, so it will take a few months, and we would basically need first a dedicated developer who would work on this. But anybody who is familiar with Bitcoin, there are a few open tasks in that area, so yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. There's another sorry, Felix? Okay, there's another thing which we added in this release. As we want to improve the service, and we need the feedback of the users of the client, and of course we don't have any means to communicate directly with them, as it would be a privacy problem. We've integrated after a trade, a kind of a confirmation pop-up where we say you have successfully concluded your trade. And we not only link to our community page, where we would love to see your feedback, but we also added a link to a survey. I'm just posting it in the chat on the left, which doesn't need any registration. And it would be great if you just could take the time. It's just 5 minutes time to let us know a couple of things, how you use the client, what you are looking for, so we can continue to improve the client, not for everyone out there, but especially for the people who are using the client, and those are the ones who trade, and that's why we put it at that place. Manfred, let me see. Do you have any important feature in mind that we also release? I'm just looking through it.
I mean, we deactivated Venmo and Cash App.
Yeah.
Of the chargeback, what happened there. Beside that, yeah, there was a bug with SEPA and SEPA Instant that's fixed as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there are quite a few
bug fixes.
The minimum withdrawal fee you can set now to 1 Satoshi per byte. Before, I think it was 5 Satoshi, and now usually the mining fee, luckily, is very low, unfairly low. And yeah, I mean, a lot of small stuff, but for the user, I think
maybe one thing that will change tomorrow, because we have now a Transifex admin who already started working on a proposal how the translation process could work, and we synced the translations between Transifex and the translations within the client. And tomorrow I will sync for the first time again all the translations. So I hope the translation in the new release should be improved on a couple of languages, especially Spanish, because I think Spanish was completely read by him, and so there are lots of changes. So, and we can think about we have I think 40 lots of locales available. They're not fully translated, all of them, but some of them are quite far already. So I think maybe not this release, but maybe next release we could talk about if you want to integrate a couple of more locales for countries, especially as you said, if we get translations for Vietnamese, for Vietnam or for Thailand, I think that could help as well.
Yeah, it would be great. Another small thing, I just remembered that the screenshot what Felix posted in Spanish, as the currencies are not really nice displayed in other currencies.
I've tried to change the language back to English because I hate seeing the Spanish language, the currencies, but the order is anyway. Yeah.
I mean, we get this directly from Java, basically from the JDK for the currencies, and we probably need to tweak it a little bit to make it capital letter in the first, and it looks already a little bit better. But yeah, small thing.
I don't think we need to talk about the referral program much because we were already discussing it. I mean, we would welcome advice from anyone who knows more than us about this, about how to do a referral program without identity, respecting user privacy. We talked about using referral codes, but the problem is that for referral programs to be successful, there's always a small number of power referrers who get a lot of clients in because they already know how to do the marketing. So you have to give them a way for any user that comes from them to have an automatically registered. And since we don't identify users, we don't identify accounts, there's only a Tor, an onion address which can be changed. It's hard to do. So I honestly don't see a way to do it for it to work well.
I think maybe I explain a little bit more how it's intended. Basically, when you, Felix, you're a market maker and you have a few friends who are trading a lot and you want to promote Bisq, you request from Bisq, from the developers, you want to get a refer ID and you get just one string, more or less a random string, which is an ID for you, basically. And then you give out this string to those people who are trading, and they are adding it in the client in the text field, and then all the offers and trades what they're doing are marked with this string, and we know that they are all come over your channel, basically. And then we can see, okay, 10% of the volume is coming from Felix, so he deserves to get this amount of compensation.
Right, but the problem that referrers have is that any action from the referees, from their affiliates, immediately cuts in half. You know, if the referee, unless the affiliate has an incentive to perform that action, right? So for the person who was referred to introduce that that code, there has to be an incentive, right? And the way it's normally done is when there's fees or whatever. The way it's normally done is the people who use the referral code get a discount, and the guy who's the referrer gets some kind of revenue share. I see this in forex brokers, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, that's this level is for sure harder, but I think it can still work that people who are, I mean, you would have a motivation that you are promoting the project, and maybe in future we could even add this, like with APIs, it would be easy. So when you would provide an API and maybe have a web page where people can use this or whatever, then you just add this referral code automatically to all your users, and they don't get asked basically. It's just marked that they come over your channel. It's a little bit like, I mean, we don't want to go so far, but like a white label from Bisq, and so when other people are running it, and then we know, okay, this traffic is this volume is coming from them. But of course, we don't want to get that route because that's very dangerous when they would provide the binary, and so you'll never know what's then happens with the binary, and so. But
sorry. Yeah, just one thing, Manfred. We talked about this already before, and there are reasons why it's not possible. The idea is if it would be possible to kind of compensate people for every trade they do. So I'm completing a successful trade, and I will get some Bisq in return. Of course, that's not possible because of the size and the amount of Bisq. But what about if we have this kind of random number that is somehow generated for every trade, and it's visible, and people then can collect this kind of codes, and if they collect 10 or 20 codes, then they can file a compensation request to get a Bisq tokens in return.
Actually, I like that idea a lot for one reason. People can pool the codes, right? So if there's one person who doesn't care about it, he's not going to make the compensation request. He can sell his code to another person who is collecting them. And then the one person who's trying to collect 20. So for example, these guys from Vietnam, if one of them has convinced a number of them has a group, they can say, hey, look, we need 50 codes to get a compensation to do a compensation request and get BSQs. You're not going to do it because it's a tiny amount. Give them all to me. That could work.
Yeah, I mean, we had this idea that with the DAO, and so that the users themselves get some something back as well. But at the end, I mean, the users are paying on one side for fees. So when we are lowering the fee, and we have already lowered the fee a while ago, quite extremely, we are already giving them something back. Of course, it's not so visible. It's a lot of psychology. And the other thing is that, I mean, the platform has to be interesting for the users by they are earning money by the trades. When we have to pay the users that they're using it, something is basically wrong. So when it doesn't, the platform doesn't come with enough incentives by itself, yeah, we have a bigger problem. And
but Manfred, marketing wouldn't exist if products sold themselves, right?
Yeah.
So even you don't want to rely too much on that. You don't want to be selling something that people wouldn't come to anyway, but people won't even hear about it if there aren't professional marketers. At least, I don't know. There's got to be some middle ground.
Yeah, regarding in general affiliate programs on mobile gaming, for example, there it's more easy because you create some tracking link and you use fingerprinting basically to find out which link connects to which app. Also, at the moment, you can even pass parameters over installation as well. So in our case, we can't really pass on any parameter on a download link. I don't know. Or Manfred, could we? No. I was thinking about having some kind of program argument on startup, but it's.
I think even. I mean, there might be some technical solution to make it in a privacy respecting manner. But even then, I think it's for marketing, for those people who care a lot of privacy, it's probably bad because they are usually too lazy to understand it or to read it and understand it completely. And then they see, okay, they're doing now so affiliate program with referrer IDs, and they have the feeling, now I get tracked at Bisq as well. And so it could be even the opposite effect, that maybe we gain a few mainstream users and we lose our core users because they have a better feeling with this Beside that, I mean, yeah, we don't have really too much, we lack of developer resources, and it's a little bit. I mean, there are many other projects which have a very high priority. So I mean, this sort of referral, what I added was just so simple that I thought, and it especially for the API people, I thought that could really help. That they are more motivated, that when they are pushing their project, they have a revenue stream by this with some metrics, because of course it's then hard to say how much value does has the one trade what they have brought. I mean, we can, even when we pay the full trading fee, so it's maybe in the beginning not really much money, but at least we have some metrics on what we can build, some structure and so on. And at the end, it's a little bit an experiment. When we see in half a year nobody has used it, and so then we'll remove it again.
Yeah, I think no one will use it if you don't promote it. The question is how we want to progress from that point. Of course, in the API, we can talk with Mike and Bernard. It definitely makes sense that they integrate that in the API. But for market makers, did you already talk with the guy from Vietnam?
No, but I will tell him, and I think it should be more in direction that that it's selected people. And my idea was that it's not everybody just gets such a code. They have to request it and have to convince us that they are really providing some essential liquidity. So it's not for a single trader who is doing maybe 10 trades a month or whatever. That's not sufficient. It should be really somebody who is trying, like a partner who is trying to push something and build his own small business around Bisq or something like this. That's a little bit the idea, but we'll see how it plays out. And of course, I'm open to
that wouldn't be a very bad thing. I mean, I would love to have a partner who creates tutorial videos one every week and files compensation requests, right? That content marketing is also a very good alternative to affiliate marketing, and content creators are not so spread out. So, you know, you have 2 or 3 content creators and they file compensation requests. That's not a big mental hurdle for us or for them. So, you know, I don't disparage people building business models around your technology, because that's, yeah. I mean, imagine if miners hadn't built a business model around the Bitcoin. So yeah.
Yeah, and maybe for promotion, I think something in this direction to push more, to have better documentation, better material. I mean, I get always the feedback again that not many people know still about Bisq. You're in a conference with Bitcoiners, really people who have already been long in the space, and they hardly heard about Bisq. So we are lacking a lot on general promotion to get the word out, really, and to find more people who are producing high quality videos. Or I think
is it about high quality videos, or is it about getting more in really big video podcasts or paid marketing?
It's a combination. I think that I just talked with the developer today, and he also said he has maybe heard before about BitSquare in this time, but then he has not. We were quite silent, so he thought, the project is already faded out, and I think over the last 2 years with the ICOs and all this what's going on, I mean, everything is so loud that when you are so silent like we are, you are completely lost already. And it's hard. I mean, in the first year, I did a lot of tours for meetups, presentations, and interviews. But it's time consuming at the end. And Chris has done, of course, a lot now in the last time. But at the moment, he has his health issues. So I think to have presentations at meetups, at conferences, and interviews in whatever podcasts or shows. That's for sure something which would be good to have more, like we have at the moment.
So that's why the ambassador program exists, right? It's good to remind everyone that, you know, if you have a meetup group or a podcast or anything, talk about Bisq, do a demo for your meetup friends, and you will be up for a compensation as an ambassador. Obviously, again, the compensation will not be. We're not paying for this type of. It should be word of mouth, and you should be in a group that's interested in hearing about it anyway. But you know, you can file a compensation request.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also what could help a lot is the website redesign is already also in progress and the redesign of the client. I will try to work together with Pedro in the next couple of weeks in more detail. So we might see already soon a reskinned client and also an improved website, because it's not that bad, our conversion rate from people visiting our site and then really downloading and trying out Bisq. I think it's roughly between 8 to 10%. It's not bad, but it could be. I think it could be improved a lot, and that's free traffic, free organic traffic, because we don't have any paid advertising. Everyone who reaches the Bisq website is either searching on Google or coming from an exchange review website or from the Bitcoin domain.
Any ideas on when the roadmap is going to be updated, or more specifically, any ideas on when the DAO, with a client with a DAO enabled part is going to be released?
I was unfortunately busy now with the release and with this acknowledge message stuff the last 1.5 weeks. I just went back on DAO coding. We have SQ has implemented the bonding, and we have already before implemented the merit, also that when you as a contributor, basically there are 2 coins in BSQ. So the BSQ, which is tradable, and then you as a contributor, the fact that you has earned BSQ, that will be that's something like a reputation token. You cannot trade it, you can transfer it, and that will give you more weight in the voting. So basically 2/3 in the weight of the voting will come from that. So when you have earned 10,000 BSQ and somebody else has bought 10,000 BSQ in the market, your earned BSQ will have more value, like the one which has only been bought on the market. So it should help us that those who are making the decisions by voting that those who are working on the project have a higher influence on the decision making. And I think it makes sense. I mean, when you think on Bitcoin, I prefer the people like Peter Willier or like Greg Maxwell make the decision, because they really know what they're talking about, and not people like name it yourself.
So ETA on the release? Are you brave enough to say a date?
I hope in more or less in 2 months that we are ready for testnet. The developer I met today, he will also join us for tests and code reviews and getting deeper. Another Naiman, a developer also who helped a lot on the concept. He started to write a very interesting document about the DAO, because the DAO is it's difficult for us for us to figure out the right mental model, what it is really, because it's not the other blockchain. It's also not really a color coin, because color coins are usually only for issued tokens, so that you have a token for whatever company or whatever. But I mean, our DAO is much more. It's much more a smart contract engine, where with the voting and with this compensation request, you have a decentralized issuance of new money to those people who have worked on the project. And it's based on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is the root, the parent security layer. But we are using also the peer-to-peer network and our own data. So, and it's it's not really a blockchain, but it's a consensus model. So it's something new which doesn't really fit to any of the models which are out there. So you cannot compare it to a sidechain, to a normal, not to Ethereum or whatever. It's something different and new, and we're trying to bring this in a high level description which fits really. And it's difficult because it's something new, and we have to invent new words for this, and you find the right terms to describe it. And just another thing, I jump a little bit. I just want to show you something, or I don't know if you can see it with the try. Can you see it here?
More in the middle, Manfred, more to the left from your side.
Yeah, I want it's this icon here. With
Bisq, more to the left. Yeah.
yes,
That's the new logo. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's the notification application what Joachim is working on, and it's already in a pretty good shape. So you can sync it with a desktop application. It's not integrated in Bisq yet, and you can send notifications. So the prototype is already working. It just needs a little bit more work, yeah, to integrate it in the UI and to define then which notification you want to get notified on your mobile. At the moment, it's only for iOS, but he will work for Android version as well. And basically, the main use case will be when you have an open offer and it gets taken, you get a notification. When you're in a trade, every important trade step, you get a notification. You can set price alerts that when the price changes in a certain range, then you get a notification, or when an offer you're defining, I'm interested in your offer in that and that price range. So when a new offer comes in that price range, you also get a notification, and it can be extended to whatever. But in the first version, it's a pure notification service, only from Bisq to the mobile, not the other way back. In a later version, when we continue with this, and he is motivated to work further on it, we might try to get Tor into the mobile version, and then you can communicate directly over Tor between the mobile version and Bisq, and then it's a kind of like remote control where it can start to become really a Bisq application. We would like to start with very simple use cases, just to not have a fully fledged Bisq application with all the use cases, because that will be quite a lot of effort and difficult. But yeah, that's the future plan, but the first version will be this simple notification application, which is already pretty cool, I think.
Cool. Yeah, mobiles where most of the users are going to come from at some point. Right. So it's already 9 here in Europe. We don't have much time, but there's a couple of things I'd like to mention. First of all, just mention that Matt Eric Pistol says in the chat that to pay users can't be right. Complicated marketing is a mental cost. Yeah, I think we all agree with that. That's why there's so much discussion about any kind of marketing effort, and we've been relying on organic growth all this time. And finally, just mentioned that in the past we discussed Lightning integration, but that's still quite a long way off, right? So yeah, so unless there are any other questions or anything anybody would like to say, I'm thinking of anybody want to say anything?
Not from my side.
Okay, so that's going to be it for the growth call. I'm going to stop broadcasting in a minute. Thank you very much, everyone coming here, and join us next week.
Yeah, and thanks Felix for running the growth call.
Thanks to you.
Bye.